All right, now we've got the whole village for you, Kevin, Kevin Lash. I heard a rumbling of casual introductions. Did everyone get a chance to identify who you are for Kevin, so we've got a sense of the audience? We have 2 judges, 2 clerks, a finance manager, and a town board.
Okay, which one's finance manager? Oh, no.
What's sitting next to you?
The one looking over your shoulder.
Looking at my notes.
Wow, you guys got a good markup.
Actually, I have 3 clerks.
Oh, and John, a 3rd clerk. I didn't see you back there, John. Sorry about that.
Okay, first of all, who's Encore? You know, Encore is a company that started about 12 years ago, and currently what we do is primarily our biggest focus is on courts, servicing courts, generally for various and sundry expenses, but the biggest one is citations. Currently we service 28 different states and about 1,700 plus customers, courts in those states. We came to New York probably a year and a half ago and partnered with SEI, who's your software company, for the courts. Mr. Wolf did a lot of research on us, came down, we're out of Atlanta, came down and looked at everything we did and liked what he saw and decided that we should partner up in the New York market. So it's a very simple process. Generally speaking, when we integrate with a court, it takes a little bit of time because you got to get the computer guys together and it's individual. Where this one, it takes about, the court's time is about an hour total, just answering a few questions because it's already integrated. It's a matter of turning it on and uploading the data to us. So we do focus on the integrations, and it is a big plus to the service in New York because they close out different accounts. As soon as they get paid, it closes it out. And works very closely with SEI and motor vehicle. Payments allows you to pay 24/7. Internet's accessible at any point in time, day or night, and we also have a live call center that's bilingual.
What languages?
Right now, Spanish is the primary.
No French?
We do. I called today, and we do have 2 people that are fluent in French. And that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure. Also, we do take Canadian credit cards as well, which we just started doing that because of some other accounts that we have. So payments are 24/7. The one plus, and we'll get into it in a few minutes, is the online call center. That probably takes 30 to 40% of our payments, which most people will just have a company and it's online with some call center. But we start comparing notes and we see that we use it quite a bit because people want to talk to somebody. And it relieves a lot of the stress at the office, at the courthouse, because they call us and vent, thinking they're talking to you. And then they understand that they aren't, that they're paying it, and the courts don't get as many phone calls, upset phone calls. I don't know, you get a lot of calls at this point?
Yes,
A lot of calls.
we always get a lot of calls. It makes no difference if it's about fines or just a case. We get tons of phone calls.
Okay,
There's no split in
yeah,
what's more or less.
yeah.
It's just
Well,
always-
again, they want to talk to somebody, they want to vent. We were at about 10 different courts today, and I mean, it's amazing the people, and they're venting, you know?
We know.
Yeah, yeah. It's tough to handle. Well, we do too. We've even gotten bomb threats, thinking, you know, from a guy out in Washington, the state of Washington, threatening us, thinking he was talking to court. So
That's good.
Yeah.
Why don't you take that off and stop your line?
Um,
Did you give them your address or the court's address?
I've dealt with so many bomb threats in retail loss prevention. Solomon Rushdie, you remember him?
Yeah.
Well, I was with Walden Books, in charge of Walden Books loss prevention, and dealt with at least 150 bomb threats in one bomb. So, yeah. And now it's held and handled completely different than it was. Okay, just to understand what we do, okay? it's the wheel of life, I call it, because primarily those are a lot of the things that we do. It's a very flexible system that we use, but it's very powerful because you can customize it to your particular situation. We help the courts market it. Everything is free to the court. If we put a kiosk in the court, that's free. And that pulls people away from the window to be able to clear that out, depending on what they want. So a lot of times it's sitting down and say, what do you want out of this? So it's not just, let's pay it. We sit down and say, okay, if you've got information in a normal system with your payment information on the back of a ticket, you'll increase your usage by probably 50%. Just for that one little thing. E-tickets, we've gotten into e-tickets and everything else. So this is what we do. We deal with different courts, different cities, different towns. We just brought up Toledo, Ohio, and got all their payments. They do about 11,000 tickets a month. And a lot of calls. So we don't specialize in the big ones. We're more the small. We've done as little as 5 tickets a month, as much as 11,000. So we really want to service the courts. Parking tickets, traffic tickets, auto towing at night. We've done several of those because at 4 o'clock in the morning, an owner has a truck driver going out. How do you pay for a tow? Well, you can call up on your cell phone, if it's a smartphone or just a regular phone, call up to our service. They pay it. The driver immediately gets a notification that payment is in the bank, that we received that payment. Once he does that, we guarantee that payment. Even if it's a chargeback, if there's something wrong with it, we're the ones that are responsible for that ticket. We guarantee, or that payment, we guarantee it. Any question on this? Okay, benefits of court, pretty much. This is general. Full chargeback and refund protection. If you've got a refund to be done, we will start to generate that before it even gets to you in the court. If it's an overpayment, if it's an underpayment, you will see it. Now with this system, they have to pay the exact amount. Okay. We do have other systems that you can accept any amount. And those are for people that really want more control. Because the system that we're talking about with SEI closes cases automatically and works very closely, and we update the data back and forth every day, constantly. So it's always updated information in our system. And by the way, we cannot get into the court's data. We cannot get into the judge's accounts. It goes one way and ACH transfer and it just goes in there. Can't get it back out. If there's an emergency, if there's something that's a major problem, we have to get you involved and do that. So it's a lot of courts think that we can get in and out of data. We can't. We can't look at any cases. That's not what it's there. It's only uploaded in whatever classification that particular case is. 35% decrease in phone calls because they're dealing with us. And a lot of times, we had Sandy down in Cedarhurst, very, very scared, pretty much, to use our system. She now loves it. She talked to her about 3 weeks ago, and she said, I love it. I can come in after a weekend and I got, 25, 30 payments and I did nothing. She sees it listed down there in detail. Reconciliation is all right there. She accepts it, and that's it.
Is that in general, all the places that you specify? How did you figure out that you do 35%?
We've been doing quite a few of the analysis, and we talk to everybody, and some people say they don't get a decrease at all. Other people are thrilled with the decreases because of all the questions that are answered. Once they ship them to us, we take care of many of the questions. So it alleviates the pressure, and that's really what it's designed for. Obviously, it's a payment program, but it also takes away a lot of the phone calls.
Well, I don't know where it would decrease too many phone calls, because most of the calls that we receive I don't think are questions that you guys could answer. I think they are specific to their case. And
Okay.
they would need to call the court no matter what.
Okay,
You know, if I were just calling to say, hey, I need to make a payment, fine, you know, but I have 4 questions about the surcharge, or I have 5 questions about the fine. And
Right.
can the judge lower it? And now we're talking 6 more phone calls.
Right.
On one matter.
okay, yeah.
The turnaround time on deposits would be how long?
It's the first 48 hours lag at the beginning, and then it's constant. It's
What
constant
about when a
flow.
person is suspended and we're supposed to list that suspension or the suspension fee?
That's why it's back and
It's
forth
overnight.
all the time. Okay, it's always being updated so that you get that to make sure. And that's a big issue as far as the suspension fee. And what
We're
happens
supposed to list
is,
it within 24 hours, just to let you know.
Right.
As soon as we receive that suspension fee.
Mhm.
And you do this all by computer,
This is all by computer.
so
yeah.
if it's down, you can't meet that deadline.
Well, we have backups, and I mean, it's redundancy of what we do because of those types of situations. We just passed the PCI compliance to level 1. We have redundancy both in Atlanta as well as in North Carolina to be able to make sure our systems do not go down. And we're classified to be able, we could actually store data and credit card numbers if we wanted to. We don't. We choose not to have any of that information.
And if someone in your staff or somebody does,
It what, takes,
stores them?
well, nobody has access to them.
Okay.
We can't see them. We don't see them. It's like a retailer. You see the 4 digits, that's it. You don't see anything. We don't store those numbers.
When there's been a civil judgment filed against someone for fines to pay, and they've paid it in full, it's gonna take them 48 hours before they can even break that lien with the county, county clerk's office.
Say that again now?
Civil judgments,
Mm-hmm.
if they're paying by end court, it's gonna take them 48 hours to, like, buy a home, buy a car, because it's not gonna show up on their credit rating with the county clerk's office. A civil judgment is like a lien against them
You know,
for fines owed the court.
and if they make that payment on a Friday night, you're saying, or something, that it won't show up till,
48 hours,
well,
business hours.
the business itself will show up immediately. As soon as you make a payment, within seconds, you're notified that that payment has come through to your office. Seconds. And at that
Back through
point,
our program?
through your program, yeah. Yeah, you'll get a notification on your notification email that you have to have, as well as you will see it come through immediately in the system. As soon as they make the payment, you will see it. There's no lag time of notification. What the lag time is the money, we guarantee that money, and at that point, once you process that payment, it's a guarantee. You got that money.
Even a check takes a couple days to clear.
Right, it does.
Credit card charges, a
Exactly.
pending debit.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, as soon as we get
Can't
that
get around
notice, it shoots to you, and that's immediate. That's what we use also with cash bond. Cash bond is a perfect example. Somebody pays at 4 o'clock in the morning, the police department gets an immediate notification, either email or fax, depending on what they have. And that person is let out at that point on that documentation. And that money is guaranteed to go in the account. So if we blow up, we've got insurance. If the place is leveled, we still have insurance to cover all the money. And we're working with Wells Fargo.
You have 150 courts on this program right now in
We
New
have
York
about
State,
100, well, in this state, we have about 172 at last count.
out of 1,197.
Right.
Do you have any statistics as to how busy any of those other courts are in comparison to this one?
You guys collected 800,000 a
I'm
year?
not worried about money, I'm worried about amount of transactions.
Oh, it ranges. We've got them from 5 all the way up to 4,000. It's 4,000 that Cedars does a month.
I noticed you have New York City Court on here.
Well, we e-file for all of the boroughs in New York City.
We don't function the same way the city
No.
boroughs do.
No.
We're very, town and village courts are completely
So
separate.
we look at
And
Town of
they're different
Saranac on
cities
here,
as
that's
well.
a better comparison.
Yeah, we can't compare it to Buffalo, New York City,
No.
Rochester.
Do you know offhand, I don't want to get out of sync what you're doing, but we're there a bit. Do you know offhand how long places like Saranac, Beekmantown, Sable, Shazy, these are our immediate neighbors, how long they've been in the system?
At the most, a year and a half.
At the most, probably a year and a half. Yeah,
Because of the-
yeah.
It's tough to compare them though,
Yeah,
the
they're not.
caseload. It's
That's
just,
right. Oh, I know.
it's not even close.
Now, what type of caseload do you have on a monthly basis?
I usually just
Well,
run it annually.
800
don't
tickets.
typically.
800 tickets?
100 cases?
Gilderland? But see, most of them, it's funny, because what I've seen, and again, I just started doing this in August in New York, because they said, you're from New York, you go deal with these guys. And Joe, the guy that I'm with, is from Glens Falls, and he came to school here. And so we're up here this week just talking, because everybody's leery. Who's this company, what are they doing, how do they do it? And they compare with only their county. And at first, the focus, I think, was more on the higher downstate courts to get them on. And then I was shocked when I started calling around to the upstate, that you guys knew about it, but that was it. No one had really ever approached you too much about it. But what I'm seeing is they're staying within the county. So some counties said, we've gotten together and decided we just don't want to do it, we don't need to. Well, if you don't use us, you probably need to do it with somebody as far as take credit cards. We deal with them a lot, and it's a convenience to the customer, and I know some judges don't want that, but at the same time, the bottom line is closing cases and getting your money, because you just don't want to have everybody suspended. And I've noticed that New York, there's so many suspensions, it's incredible.
Let me ask you one question. How many times has somebody signed up and then decided that they didn't like it?
I would say I know of one in New York.
But other than that, once they sign up,
I haven't seen many people not
Okay.
like it,
All right.
and there's no, here's the plus, there's no contract at all. It's word of mouth, we agree, if you don't like our service, you can quit it. Now, we have somebody that's assigned just to New York State. She's a project manager. She probably has an equity share in the company. She's very, very well respected, and she handholds every court. If they have a problem, they have an issue. There was an issue in the court when I first got here, because I analyzed everything. I analyzed, the catch bond and all this. What are we doing wrong? What are we doing right? And I got complaints when I first started calling. It was about scops. And I've heard so much about scops because courts have a tendency to do what they do in their particular court. And there's a date or time of 37 days for a scop, and that's what it is. And that's what it is in the SEI program as well as what we have it. Well, some courts like to change it to 35 days to give a little time. Well, if they do that, they throw everything off because we'll charge $70 2 days early. So everything, that part has to be consistent so that these people that have their license suspended, everything's got to sync. And that's about the only thing we saw. But those are the things that we've worked out to make sure, because everybody likes to do their own thing. But that's one thing that needs to be standard with it, because you got motor vehicle, you got the court, and you got us. And we fixed that. Other than that, that was the one issue.
So I see there is a contract if we, want to be able to have some terms and conditions.
Yeah, there's a
about what we're
proposal that
doing.
we put in.
But there'd be no binding period of time that,
Yeah, we
before you
can,
could bail.
and I don't know if I sent you guys up a proposal. I've done it with.
We've got
few
a
of them.
proposal, I didn't see a contract. that-
No, there's no contract in that one. I mean, like I said, if you want a contract, we can always do it. And that's one of the things that we do is say, look, if you don't like our service, everything's free. If we had a kiosk out there, it would be free.
So, the end court receives its fee from the client,
From the defendant,
the
right,
defendant?
whoever the payer is.
What rate do they pay?
It's a calculation and it's standard throughout all of New York State. And it ranges from 5 to 12%, depending on the time of the period. If it's 37 days and it's into the SCOF right there at the end, you know, we've got a disclaimer on it saying it's got to get to the payment of the court clerk. You know, it's not just because they paid it 5 minutes before 12 and said, oh, okay, I'm satisfied. It ranges depending on, there's a lot of variables and I don't know them all, but I know size of the fund, the fee. The time in which it is. If it's immediately, you're going to have probably 7%, $100 is going to be about $7.
And this is a one-time fee to the defendant? This is
Yeah.
a payment process, not a funding process?
This is a payment.
You're not giving them credit over a period of time
No.
and so on?
No. Now, again, we've got other systems that actually, if you have credit, we have systems that can actually, you can accept any payment that you want. It's not integrated with SEI. We could probably do something fancy with it, but it's not integrated with SEI, but you can split the payments and you can do a lot of different things with it. 2 courts in New York have that. One is Hempstead and the other is Stony Point. Stony
What do you
Point.
mean they have a split?
Well, in other words, you can divide a payment up into 3 different things and go to 3 different areas, so you can
Okay.
split it. Now, the cities, that would be useful for the cities, because they have to split their payments.
Well,
So-
one thing I should mention, Kevin, as we're mentioning some names here, we are being taped, and it's not a tape the town
Right,
has any possession of, okay?
okay.
For everyone, really, judges especially, too, clerks.
Question I had,
Yes, sir.
mention was made earlier, a person can make partial payments?
Not on this system.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that Terry Wolf had talked to Terry about it when we were up in Syracuse, and his feeling is that a partial payment, if they use their credit card, it really is a partial payment because they can pay it back, you know, 3-4 months at a time, or 1 month at a time. So it is a partial payment as opposed to a full. When you pay and use your credit card, it can be a partial payment. So I pay $100 to you, I can pay $20 for the next 4 months, 5 months.
No,
and make
that's
a
not what
payment.
I'm talking about. I'm talking about, they're gonna process through you a payment.
Correct.
Okay,
That should be a full
that
payment.
should be a full payment.
No,
That-
there's no
that was what I-
installment.
I
There's
just-
no installment in this one, no. And we had another court say that, and they said, well, we could do it like we do now on our own if you got it, because I know everybody's got some, you know, people
Well, that
that,
person wouldn't be able to use this system. If they were gonna
not this
cut it
particular
here, they
system.
wouldn't be able to use this system. Not everything's gonna go through a system in court.
Right, right, exactly. I mean, this is an option for people. This isn't the only option, this is one of many, and the thing is, people choose. It's almost like ordering pizza at night. Tonight, I would be paying for a delivery as a convenience, because I don't want to go out in the rain and dark. If it was during the day and it was beautiful, I may decide to jump in my car and go get the pizza. And that's really how we equate it. It's a choice, and it's surprising.
You wouldn't
And
ride your bicycle?
I may. But what we found with the courts all over the country is they're amazed at how many people pay the service charge. They just want to get rid of it. They don't want to go to the courthouse. And, you know, that's the bottom line. And it's much, much easier. They're surprised how many people will pay so quickly.
And if the defendant has a friend with a credit card, we don't care, we still take that. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
their card, as long as it has
Correct.
credit.
Yes. Anybody, mom and dad can pay. Now, you get school here. And we got Athens in Georgia that they're probably our biggest customer, and they're the poorest
Mhm.
city in the state, pretty much, or county. Mom and dad pay for the kids, you know, let's get it over with, and so you get so many credit card payments, it's incredible.
And that's how the online can be an advantage to. Now,
Much bigger
I
advantage.
made a real note of, one of your bullets was increase in cash collected. I guess I'd have to begin with the question to our clerks or judges, do we have a real problem with collecting the cash to start with? If we don't have a problem, I don't know how we increase it. If we have a problem, I want to know how to increase it.
Well, I don't think we have a problem, collecting, cash as it be, as, I think the biggest thing that most people don't understand is how many people we actually have on a payment plan.
Yeah.
We're not talking 5, 10, 20 people, we're talking many people.
Again, that's
Many
why.
that are on payment installment, like they're paying, like they pay their NICEAG bill, I mean, they make a
Now, would they
monthly
be
payment.
paying with credit card, you think?
Most of them just send in a money order or come in and pay cash.
Yeah.
Those people.
That's what I would
those
think.
folks.
Most of the criminal cases have payment.
Almost all of our people with criminal cases have some sort of payment.
I mean, if we could make them go away and their payment plan is their payment to their credit card, that would free up a lot of time.
Well,
But not
they don't-
everybody has a
They don't
credit
have
card.
credit cards, a lot of them.
You
Oh, I
know,
would
Yeah.
guess not. That's why some of them
My
are doing what they're
concern would
doing.
be when you say, when Bernie asked a question about somebody else's credit card. What happens when a person makes a payment with a credit card and then it comes to light that that's not their credit card?
It's our problem.
That's your problem.
Yeah, that's our problem. We guarantee that payment. It goes through and gets scrutinized, so that's our problem.
It could be one of the cards that is the reason why they're in court.
Absolutely. But they,
Do we have a high percentage of Canadians and out of towners?
Absolutely,
you probably do. Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
an insane number.
And what we've been told is they pay very quickly with the credit cards.
Some
You got a
do,
lot of truckers?
some do.
A lot of truckers.
A lot of truckers. 'Cause we were just-
Interstate.
Yeah, we were just talking to, downstate.
But really, we take credit cards anyways, so.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm asking, do we have the bullet that there'll be an increase in cash collected? Do we have a deficit in that category? Are we lacking collectibles? Is that a weak area?
Well, it may be quicker as well, as far as cash. Cash meaning payments.
Yeah.
I would think that the payments would come in a lot quicker, because currently, a lot of the courts, and tell me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the courts will communicate with people or the mail when it comes to credit cards. I don't know if you guys do it here, but they'll say, and they can print out a letter saying, hey, if you want to pay with a credit card, put your credit card information in an envelope along with your information on your driver's license and a signature, and send it to us. Now, I don't know about you, but that just sends chills up and down my spine. And it's rampant across this whole state. And that's one of the things that I really push on the PCI compliance, because we should never ask somebody to do that nowadays.
Are we doing that?
Well, when we first got our credit card machine, you have to understand that it was new to us, and we were, of course, trying to figure out how it all worked, but one of the options that we had was to do that.
It's still an option.
Yep, and it is an option, and people can do that.
And
If they choose to, that's their choice.
And they do. But, my issue is it's not the best choice.
Well, from a security standpoint, I mean, certainly, I wouldn't write my number in and send it in to anybody either, but.
Well,
Well, I would question whether it's the best choice, that they're paying another 12.5%, plus the percentage that they're gonna pay on their credit card, plus the fine. And a lot of these people are poor, paying on installments. How are we gonna just make them, we're gonna make them poorer by making sure that they have another 12.5%?
Well, no, a lot of them can get a certified check for a money order,
Yeah,
correct?
we do. We deal with a lot of bank checks and a lot of money orders.
Yeah, yeah. Again, this is not for everybody. It's for the people that are passing through in the long distance stuff is really where you're gonna see a big difference.
I think that's why we're throwing everything at you though, because we're trying to cover all,
Everything. Absolutely, and I,
everything that we can
If you're
think
from
of.
New Jersey, if you're
It's
from New
cheaper,
Jersey
yeah.
and you get stopped,
you,
okay? You're not gonna wanna
Come back
come
to
back
court.
up here.
Cheaper to pay the 5% than you have to drive all the
But
way
we,
back.
if we get
Exactly.
Well, it's not
we have a
5%.
credit card.
Your average is
Take
5 to
is
12.
it average, or is it everyone
We have a credit card
12.5%?
machine.
no, 7% is probably
Yeah,
average.
but I live in that credit card here. You
You
gotta be
put
here.
in here that, on this
If they're trying to do
chart,
it, or if they're trying to
there
do
was
it
a
from New Jersey,
$135
plead
fine,
guilty, you send them the
and
fine.
you charged,
If they wanna pay the fine to use the credit card, they gotta come back here right now.
$135 fine on here.
Yeah.
I'm
This thing
assuming
is on
that
a
this
computer and
was,
send
your
That
normal rate.
information.
Certified check.
And you charge $17 in convenience fee, that's 12.5%.
We do not take them over the phone. No, we don't have, we have
Well,
no
again, I
idea
don't know
what
the
we're talking
conditions of this and when it was due, how long, how old the payment has been.
It's 12.5%. I mean, you know, that's what you put down in the thing
Right.
that you're sending out to everybody. That's a lot more than 3-4%.
But I
Well, no,
think,
it's not 3 or 4%.
I think the local defendant, and that was coming out a minute ago, has some different options. It would appear the target audience that might benefit from this is the traveler. We get a lot of people on the interstate, in the hotels. As was mentioned earlier, you know, I'm not gonna come up from New York City when I go into my computer and it's done.
That's exactly right. We see
That
a
would
lot of-
actually be a huge convenience to them.
Where we see the biggest benefit is on the highways.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, it's huge on the highways, because you got people just traveling through. If I'm seeing, and talking to a court that's in the middle, like where I used to live, you know, crossroads, and that's about it, don't waste your time. It's not worth it. You're not getting long distance travel coming through.
Mhm.
You know, and we don't make anything on it. I mean, it will give them the free service, just so they've got it. And I've had a couple of them with, you know, 10 tickets a month. You know, that's not gonna do anything, because you probably never get a payment from them, but
When you first said that, I couldn't understand why in a month. But if you're in a smaller rural, like Saranac has fewer, our neighbor, they're not getting the transient traffic that we do. So the
Exactly.
local are going in with Uncle Bob's bag of cash, I suspect.
yeah.
What is the percentage, when you say that once a town adopts it, they pay by this system as opposed to not paying by that system?
What's the percentage of
People that,
that pay?
yeah,
We don't know. You know, that's not something that we've really looked at, as far as the percentage. Now, SEI could tell you,
Yeah,
because
but
they
would
have all the tickets. We don't have all the
yeah,
tickets. We
would
don't
you,
have-
would you guess, say 50%,
No, I don't think so.
less than that?
I would say it's less than 50%,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Somebody at a crossroads, certainly more, and somebody out in a more
Probably
remote
less.
area.
Absolutely. You know, Mississippi, we have 80% of the counties in Mississippi. And I went to a conference there, and, you know, some of them were saying, we don't use it. You know, we don't have, our people around here are poor and they don't have, and I understand that. You know, is it an option for people, you maybe use once a year?
Arlington, Virginia is probably 80%.
I'd love to get it. Well, there's some little tiny towns in Georgia on the highway on 75.
Yeah.
It's like a revolving door, and
Truck
you're talking
traffic.
$500 for tickets.
Hmm.
And they've got, let's see, Turner and Ashburn, they've got cash bond and the tickets, both. And it's incredible, because they're right on 75.
What is the liability to the town if something goes wrong with your system?
We have full insurance on anything that you can think of as far as our coverage and the money that we have.
We're gonna be sued though.
Well, I'm sure then we would be sued as well, and probably be called up as being, you know, the principal in it. But we have all the liability, we can get the documentation. I think I got a copy of something on one of them, but I can get you that documentation if that's what you want, yeah. Well, I mean, we collect millions of dollars a month.
And if the system is hacked into,
We just hired, we got PCI compliant, which is the highest level. We just hired professional hackers. I don't know how you get a hold of them.
I do.
Our judges could recommend something.
But we just hired, and it was very expensive to hire professional hackers to hack in to see if they could get out, and they could not get in. Now, does that mean it's foolproof? No, nothing is. But, I mean, we take it very seriously, and, you know, it's our credibility in the company. And when we don't have a contract, we could be out of business overnight.
Well, anytime anybody calls, sends a letter in, gives us their credit card, there's a little exposure, I suppose.
There's a lot of exposure, actually. And
When we don't have a third party we can point a finger at, it's just
Well,
us.
one of the issues that you got is like I said, the PCI compliance. And I tell the court this, you guys are like retailers. I worked in retail loss prevention for 35 years, and PCI compliance applies to anybody and everybody that takes a credit card.
Mhm.
So, you know, even having a full number in your office is against policy at this point. That's why it costs so much money to the retailers over the years, because they had to go to that 4-digit system with 4 digits, and that's it. But we still see a lot of access to credit cards, and it's temptation. you know, let's face it, the temptation is there. We see a lot of courts that we deal with or that we're aware of that have internal issues. And this just cleans up. We got a call from Missouri 8 months ago that wanted us to put a proposal in for the whole state so that they could take cash away from everybody in the state and just deal with credit cards. That's the whole state of Missouri.
I don't know how they do
Under the card payment issues and inaccurate payments, you put, with an integrated payment system, practically 100% of the payments processed will be accurate. So practically 100%. Okay, that means it's not.
Well, again, the system does not accept anything but what's down there as far as their amount.
And then it says contingent upon cooperation with CMS vendor. Where does that come
Oh, okay, each vendor is different. You got SEI, that's CMS vendor, and that's for all of New York State. We have 30 or 40 vendors, CMS vendors, which are for the court
Our
software.
court programs.
Right.
There's just different.
So, yeah, this is a general, but for SEI.
Some of us aren't as familiar with the court.
I'm sorry.
How about
I'm not either.
things such as the speed of the transactions, the auditing, and so on? We have very regimented routine and impeccable numbers when it comes to accounting down there. How does that fit in and how does that work out
For
this?
reconciliation, you
On
get the
a daily basis?
You get the reconciliation report, you get, and there should be an example of it in the folder here. You've seen it in the back 2 pages. You get detailed documents of everything. And we've got somebody, like I said, Tammy will go over everything with you. In 20 minutes, you actually are trained on the system with
Who
no
is
problem.
Tammy?
Tammy is our project manager that deals just with New York State. And she goes over, she's the one that actually welcomes you into the system and goes over all the details, make sure that the ACH forms are filled out, everything is done, and everything is up to standard. And when you get your first payment, we then give you another call to you go through and walk you through how to process the payment.
And then this payment, this deposit slip that I see here is deposited where?
That's your account, because again, it goes in the judge's account directly.
So when did they know that? When do these clerks know that it goes into this account?
You will see, okay, there's, like I said, there's a 48-hour lag initially when you start, and after that, it's going in continually. So that money will be in there, technically be there in 2 days. But you've got to flow.
case, it shows paid.
Right,
Open the case.
correct.
So, but January 31st, someone makes a payment.
Well, what you've got to cut off. You can cut off anytime you want.
Well, we have a cutoff now
Okay.
for
so-
credit cards,
So, yeah, you've got to cut off so that.
within a week of the end of the month.
Right.
We-
And that's what Tammy
we run
walks you
the
through to
process.
make sure that everything is always perfect. Yeah, every court has to have it perfect. They will not agree with that.
Since it shows up on our daily deposit slips,
Yes.
we would put that in a deposit in our reconciliation
do not
statement.
accept
We just like our credit cards,
Some
because
of
it hasn't been added into our accounts yet.
And since
But
what
due to be added.
Yes, okay.
But the e-card payments, I have noticed on the deposit slips, they do print out, they're of course in zeros right now,
Mhm.
but SEI has put it into the program
Right.
on your state.
Yeah, so I think they've covered everything at this point. Trust me, with 170 different courts in New York State, we're not getting, calls every minute that there's a problem. We have, there's always gonna be a glitch, there's gonna be something, like you said, the suspends or something, but we haven't seen any real issues of anything coming through. And trust me, we get calls. People in New York State will call us.
I had a couple of questions on, there's a statement here, courts using N-Court are covered by a $1 million liability insurance policy. Is this the corporation's liability insurance policy? And each court is covered up to $1 million?
Yes.
Or is,
Yeah. Because, we've collected, $5-6 million already from the New York courts, and we got some Montgomery, Alabama. These are huge courts with a lot of money, and we're now gonna do Decatur, which is probably the largest in the country. Decatur, Georgia. And you can't believe how many thousands of, so there's a lot of money going through the system. We process millions.
the question was raised earlier, that if there were to be a suit, you know, you would clearly be named, or we would be named.
Well, that's always gonna
Does-
happen, yeah.
Does your company, if we were to request that we be named an additional insured on on your corporate liability insurance policy, would you be willing to do that?
I can check and
The reason for that is that, you know, if we have to go before the court and we're an additional insured on your liability policy, it really removes us from the process,
Mhm.
okay? The other question that I've got is, I don't think $500,000 fidelity bond is a lot of money when you're throwing around the numbers you're throwing around.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't mean any disrespect either, but I don't think you understand how busy this court is in comparison to Saranac or Beekman or some of the others that are listed.
Oh, I'm fully aware of how busy it is. We look at it, I've got a report that'll tell you exactly how much each one of the courts collects on a yearly basis. So, you know, we're talking Colony Wednesday morning, and they're substantially busier.
Well, Colony is
Double,
is,
triple.
they're up there. You'd have, you know, Colony, Clifton Park,
Well,
some of the areas in Albany are, those are much,
Yeah,
you're talking, they probably have a staff of 12.
yeah.
And, you know, we can't compare
No.
what we do to them.
Right.
But, I mean, that doesn't take away how busy we are.
I don't see Colony on your list.
No, Colony had a problem at one point, and again, they're very hesitant just in general. For whatever reason, I don't know, each court clerk has a different perspective of their court, you know, and some want complete control. I talked to Julie twice. I'm not the one who initially contacted her, and we're sitting down Wednesday, and I'm offering her the other system so she has complete control. Some of these courts, with the real busy courts, want complete control of everything. They don't want things automatically closed.
I assume there must be other courts that are the size of Plattsburgh, is that a fair statement?
Say that again now?
There must be other courts about the size of Plattsburgh.
Oh, yeah.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, Gilderland, I think, is the same. I brought them up there in, is it Albany?
Yeah.
Albany County? Yeah, there's several of them. Like I said, this is a busy court. I don't want to take that away from you.
Half Moon.
Half Moon, we stopped in the other day. We
They
stopped
do
in
a lot of
today.
business at Half Moon.
Half Moon is willing to talk to you and say they love it. I talked to, we stopped and gave them donuts, Dunkin' Donuts. I was gonna bring Dunkin'
Oh, is that
Donuts
why they
here.
love it? I just wondered.
We met her for the first time, you know, just face to face and stopped and they said, the court clerk said she was very hesitant initially, which they all are, everybody is, because it's something new. She loves it, and she's the one that deals with it.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of being new as it is knowing what's happening with your records.
Oh, absolutely.
It's, okay, this is our case, we know where this person, we know who this person is, we know what they're doing. Now, somebody's gonna, you know, step in and say, we're gonna change that. Now, I'm not saying that you're doing it.
Yeah, no.
No, that's not where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
But from this side looking out, it's like, whoa,
Trust me.
you know, please don't, because
Yeah.
these are
I-
ours.
Well, I'd be in line, yeah.
Do you know what I'm
The court
saying?
clerks take possession of the whole thing because you're responsible for it, along with the judges.
Well, that's
And
what it boils down to.
that's what it boils down to, and a lot of there's misperception for some reason. Well, we can get into a system, we can, you know, look at your cases and look, you can't look at anything. I mean, whatever's documented down there, it's, you know, that's your case. What you do is you update it every day, it gets downloaded to us, we don't see that. It's just downloaded in the database.
I think the next logical thing, I mean, unless there's some more questions, we can kind of debate this until tomorrow morning, would be for our clerks to try and contact, and I think a small judge, like or a small court like Saranac, and make a contact with Half Moon, especially if they have a sense you've come up here. And our judges do the same, to get a sense of how these people feel about the system, the impact it had on their job.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you know,
I would like
what
to
could it do
hear-
better?
I would like to hear what Colony has to say.
Johnson
They
City.
are,
Johnson
our
City.
lead training
Green
court
County.
for court clerk.
Oh, okay.
in the fourth-
Colony's
in-
not in.
In the fourth judicial district, I would like to hear
Mhm.
the outcome of that court.
Which court?
Because Colony, Julie Gansel,
Mm-hmm.
she is our lead educator for the fourth.
They're not on the
But they're
list.
not
They're not on the list yet.
Doesn't matter,
Right,
we
you're
wanna,
meeting
we
with
wanna.
Right.
But I would
we
like to
wanna see
hear
somebody else.
her input
It's
as
just,
What are their
well.
concerns?
everybody has a
She is
different
the head
perspective though
training
of
court
the
clerk
protection.
in the fourth judicial district.
Like I said, you talk to Onondaga County, and some of them love it, and, you know, they'll sell it kind of to you. You know, it's like, I really love this, and others are standing back because of their personality and the way they see their court, and they can be very similar size and everything else. So each court is individually different. That's, I think Terry Wolf said, gee, I'm surprised we haven't had more. Well, you've got to sell it to each one individually, because it's an individual choice in the way they look and accept their responsibilities. So one of the questions I ask to everybody is, you know, I'm looking for, and do a needs analysis. Do you want control, complete control, or do you want convenience? And I don't want to put it in a negative way, convenience, but because of the integration, it's easier, it flows better. With the control, you take each payment and you accept each payment and make comments if you want.
Right.
You know, this one was overpaid, we generate a refund automatically without even telling you if it's overpaid. So there's a lot of different things that we can do with these different systems. SEI is the one system that's like a generic system that most courts like, but there's exceptions.
Mhm.
Can I just ask a question before, I know that, you know, we don't need to discuss the entire thing, but I'm just trying to comprehend the procedure here.
Mhm.
Let's just take somebody with a speeding violation, for
Right.
example.
Okay.
We send them out their notice saying, you know, you owe whatever dollar amount.
Right.
Okay, so is our notice supposed to have an indication that they can go to
Yes.
there and say, okay, you can go here and pay online, or you can,
That's exactly what happens.
you know, because I don't see a sample in this.
SEI
that's what I'm asking.
tweaks your notice. Okay, it's
Okay.
a letter that goes out to the defendant. You owe us $65.
Okay.
On the back of it, it gives the options, and it's added as one of the options. You can pay by phone, call this 800 number, or you can go to this URL and pay it online. So that's the difference right there.
So that payment, let's just say they choose to pay through you.
Right.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna give them a call here. I'm gonna pay my fine. You guys have processed it. I'm not talking about that 48-hour delay.
Right,
This is a general question.
They get a confirmation of payment.
They'll
Not a
get a
receipt, a
confirmation.
confirmation of payment.
Okay,
You have to
so
generate.
this is another step. This is where I'm trying to understand what
Right,
the
you still
procedure
have
is.
to do a receipt. You still have to do, you either do a manual receipt or electronic receipt generated.
Okay,
You'd still do the same procedure that you've been doing as far as the receipt. Whatever that may be, because each court's different.
okay.
Now, it'll close out your case. You'll see in your computer program, it'll, under utilities, end court utilities, you pull that up, and you will see the payment. You'll also get a notification from your normal email. There's been a payment made, and I think there's an example in here, of notification in your email. So you know that there's payments in your system, and you'll pull them up and accept them.
And those dollars go into the judge's accounts.
Yes, whatever judge has been designated for those accounts.
And since we're doing all this mailing and stuff, and putting your name on it as a possibility, do you help with any of the mailing? Any financial assistance?
Now
on
with,
mailing?
we do with some things, but not with your mailing to the general, that your defendant, you mean?
No,
That
I
you
mean,
normally-
we're sending these notes out to them.
You have to anyway.
And we're telling them, well, true, but
Yeah, you normally do that anyway, just as a matter of business.
But we don't normally put anybody else's name on here to contact and make payments. We're providing you this service, we're initiating this service. Is there any financial assistance that we can
Remuneration
get?
for, not for sending the letter out to the customer, like I said, that's gotta be in the system, because New York doesn't have a fine schedule, and they have to know how much they owe. So no matter
Well,
how they do it,
see, in New York State, it's a floating system.
exactly.
It is not the judge, same judge doesn't do the same thing, because it's
Right.
not a mandatory thing. It's a floating system in New York State.
Right.
And most states don't do that.
No, they don't.
So
We have a fine schedule.
explaining, it, you know,
So that's an added step that you have in every court.
yeah.
You have to have that. And that slows down the
Yes.
process,
I
truthfully.
guess what I'm saying is you're making money off the court, why can't the court or the town have part of that money back? When somebody puts an ATM machine in the local bar room, they
Right.
pay the bar for every transaction.
Okay.
Why can't that be done here? We're putting your name in every single one of those ticket holders.
Take a look and see.
You're doing all your advertising.
With that?
Yeah, but they're not charging a fee for the service either.
Yeah, we're not charging you for a fee.
So, you gotta look at
You're
both
charging
sides.
12.5% per person.
They're not charging the town.
I want to know what they're charging per person.
No, like you said, 7 to 8%. Again, I don't know what that one is an example of, other than just showing the payments and how it works.
Now, this is a closed corporation, it's just a few people that run it, that are making the profit. I want to know how much they charge percentage-wise. And I'd like to see that, how it varies from place to place.
Place to place, meaning,
Well,
Court to
you got
court?
different states, you got different,
oh, it's all standard. It's been standard throughout.
then you better change your,
Pam, in the situation that you're using as a model, without this system in place, we still have to notify them by mail? You
Oh,
owe
absolutely.
X?
Yeah. And even if somebody mails in their payment, we still have to send them back a receipt. We do not accept money and not give a receipt.
So there's
So I'm
There's a
not
number of
sure-
reasons for that, so,
If they're adding on the back another option for payment, I don't know what impact that has on us in the mailing process.
our work, I don't think
What
that
I'm-
our jobs,
Yeah,
what
what
we
he's saying
do
is-
I'm
changes.
not saying it's gonna cost us anymore. What I'm saying is, we're taking this company and we're giving them the opportunity to make money off of us.
Yeah, well, it's a
Okay?
service.
Either we should be looking across the board at a bunch of different companies to do this, give them all equal opportunity, or they should be paying the town for that opportunity. They would have to pay a private industry, right? If they were providing, like the example I used with the ATMs, wherever they put them, the owner of that business gets a dividend off the use of that ATM. He's using the town for his advertising.
When we take credit cards now, do we get something for taking the card?
No, no.
Is it added into the card, the fee to handle the card, is that added into the user?
Not in this state.
Yeah.
In other
Not that
states,
I'm aware
in
of.
other states,
Credit cards
it
wouldn't
can be.
be, ATM cards may.
You know, we cannot accept cards as a debit. Like if
Right.
somebody has a debit card, they can't come and use it as a debit. We can only run it through as a Visa or MasterCard. So if any fees that are applied, that's between basically them and their credit card company. We do not collect anything further than what.
So we get the full amount, if it's $100, I pay with my credit card, the
We
town
get-
gets,
we get $100.
You get $100.
You get $100,
okay.
yeah.
Because that's what,
That's set up through state
And
contract.
it's the same thing.
So
It's the same thing.
but the
They're
user
paying
certainly
$100.
has to pay a fee to use the credit card. I mean, the
Oh, it's not
credit card
free
isn't
lunch.
doing it, right, they are doing it for free.
Well, yeah,
but
nobody
that's
is, yeah.
between them and their bank or their services or whatever.
Right, so they're paying a convenience fee to use their credit card, they're just paying it to their credit card company,
Right.
not to these
And-
guys.
And the thing is, when they pay it, there's about 4 times throughout that process that they can back out at any point in time. They know before going in, the total at the end, it's like shipping and handling. You know how that works, I mean, on TV, you see it all the time.
I'm not as worried as, my personal opinion, I'm not real worried about what the defendant's got to pay, if he's got to pay another 10 or 12 or 8% for the infraction that got him in trouble to begin with. I really have no empathy for that. But I like Judge Joyce's idea, that could we share in some of the revenue? We might start something.
I will check on that.
Certainly would be an incentive.
My vice president and stuff, again.
Yeah, be an incentive.
Oh, it would be. You know, so I will talk to them about that.
Again, I think, and I think I'm hearing that, our clerks might call some clerks, and our judges call some judges, get some more information. You're gonna have to give us some feedback as to whether, you'd like to pursue this. I gotta believe we'd have to have both courts do this in the town versus one doing one now. I think that would just get to
Do you
be
have a time frame for?
challenging for us. Once we, let's say we decided to do this, when would it go live? How long would it take to actually let that become an option?
The only glitch we have at this point in time is making sure that when they call SEI, because that's really the linchpin that starts this whole thing, is you give SEI the authorization to upload to us. And to make sure that you want it done immediately, okay? And we've had them done in a day. No, that's.
Or we pick a date, or we pick a date, and that's the target date.
Yeah, you could do that.
You know.
Well, we wouldn't really want to call our programmer until we were
Right.
closer to saying, yeah, can we kind of start setting this up for like next week? We wouldn't want to be any further out.
Are there people in SEI that you've worked with just over the years, that's someone you can pick up the phone and ask for Orville or Bob?
I've talked with pretty much everybody.
Marty's
Marty
generally,
or Terry or,
even
yeah.
Jennifer.
Like I said, they may have some input that would help guide us.
They generally don't sell the product, and they do it intentionally. They say, here's the product that we offer, and they don't offer it, but they'll show you what it is.
Well, they're explaining that it can be used within the program.
Right.
Is what, if somebody says, well, we want to do this credit card payment on my thing, and the SEI would say, well, we have NCORT. A different programmer might use somebody else.
I just wonder if there'd be someone there that would give you some feedback as to familiarity, haven't had a problem, had problems, a lot of courts do it, few courts, many have gotten in and gotten out. Would they give any recommendations?
Well, our program in itself is updated regularly, and there's no such thing as any foolproof anything. So, if there's a glitch, if there's, some letter, the letter B is throwing payment off, or, what have you, the programmers themselves are always updating, and they're always saying, hey, we had to update this because it wasn't working, because the letter B was messing everything up, so we fixed it, and
That's what happened with our credit card letter too. It had to be revamped because it came through with SEI, and the credit card
when we
payment on
first
the
started.
paper had to be deleted because you didn't want that.
Well, we stopped doing that. If you were talking about that writing in
Yeah.
there, we don't even do, that's not even on our letter anymore. We've done away with that. We actually stopped that months ago. We've only been using the credit cards since like May, so you're talking, we didn't do it for a very long period of time.
Well, it's part of the letter that got updated into our program when we adapted credit
Do you
cards.
have any competitors in the state of New York that you know
GovPay is one competitor that we have. That's about it that I know of. And we have, there's a small amount of counties that use them.
And that's for various services, though. GovPay is for a number of different things, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Has your credit card experiment been successful?
Yes.
Now, what was the experiment?
Using.
Learning.
You mean with the machine?
It's
Well, I'm
relatively.
saying, this is new and I've had
The state that gave you the machine. Now, the thing is,
The court
that
mandated.
should be used, again, here's my retail stuff. That's face-to-face, transaction, card in hand, and you see everything. That's all it should be used for.
Right, that is all it's used for.
They don't take calls over
We
Call
don't
ar- Call
know.
around.
But it hasn't
Oh, yeah.
changed
No,
our
we
figures
do
so
not.
immensely that there have been large changes as
But I
far
don't,
as.
but I don't speak for another court.
Right, I'm just,
And I'm not going to speak for any other
Yeah.
court.
It is a
We do not do
usable,
that.
it
That's
is a
good.
usable piece of
Yeah.
equipment, but I don't see a large upswing.
Has it chased
As
your
far as
chase,
payments.
reduced some of your chase time though with trying to get payments from people?
Not
Not,
really.
not immensely.
Not,
not-
not drastically.
No, but there's that, the person who, doesn't have any they have an old check to pay, and we don't take checks, so.
Right.
Oh, we can pull a credit card.
Can you use my card? Yeah, sure, we can do that, you know.
That's it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No one size fits all, is it? Solves all
Right now,
problems.
not in this world.
What direction is the justice court fund going? Are they requiring you to use credit card machines?
It's not mandatory. They are leaning that way for a lot of courts. There are a lot of very small courts in New York State that don't have credit card machines. They certainly, you know, don't use a program like N-Court. You know, it's very hard to get everybody on the same plan when every single town or village
It's so
is
diverse.
different.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
So,
Justice
The
court
actual-
fund will dictate what they want you to do.
The actual credit card application went through the Office of Court Administration.
'Cause I-
And they're
I
the
know
ones that
court-
actually fund the machinery to
Right.
come in.
Yeah, that's why you don't pay any charges, because
Correct.
court funds.
Oh, they get the money faster.
but when they first started doing that though, it was not. There were charges to the town
Right.
when they first started.
Correct.
And when they flipped the program and said, well, OCA is going to absorb the fees, please, we want you to use this, you know, you would start seeing, you
Well, they
know,
went out and negotiated with the credit card
Everybody-
company.
Yeah, because it was a 3%
This is what we
surcharge
pay, yeah.
for those
Yeah.
machineries.
so, but what people, what their charges are dealing with, you know, the credit cards
'Cause I've seen
is
courts-
none of our,
You mean the LCA?
yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have nothing to do with any of that. We just take the fine money that has been designated to their particular matter, and we're done.
Okay, we have a few
Just
more
just one question.
final closing arguments.
Under the service overview, you said the complete case will be displayed, including any additional citations that may be associated with the one entered.
Correct.
And the individual will see the complete fine amount. Now, that individual that put in their number is the only one that can see that.
Correct.
There's nobody in the company that can go into that and,
You mean us?
you know?
If you know what number it is that they're putting in, but, you know, that's the case number. So we don't get any correlation to case numbers. The case number is individual with the person, so we do not see that. As far as, when they're in the system, 172 people, if I have a ticket in Plattsburgh, and I have another one in Gilderland, and I haven't paid it, that's gonna pop up on that same system, right then and there. So you may get paid if somebody gets, you know, a ticket and then sees that they still have an outstanding ticket, they may pay both of them.
But that wouldn't reflect to one court, would it?
Oh, no, it goes,
The
they
individual.
give funnel to the
Okay.
correct courts, yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that's a plus.
I would again suggest if you are at all interested, make a few calls. I would still make a call or two, a couple of our neighboring municipalities that are using this. Get a hold of some of the big ones, gather some data, give us some feedback. And this is something we're exposing you to as an option. The board isn't saying do it. Kevin, I really appreciate you taking time
Well,
to come
no
out here
problem.
and otherwise
Yeah, we
kind of miserable
encourage,
night.
we encourage everybody to,
It's important to meet.
contact these guys.
Yeah, it's
Yes, it
important to
does.
meet representative, and
And I appreciate the
hopefully
time.
you're spending the night in one of our fine motels.
Yes, I
and
am.
eating
I've
our
already
fine
done that just to make sure, because I'm not driving back down that road right now.
The
It's
deer
not a
or
good
something.
night, but,
It feels like Halloween or something. I mean, it's just cold, dark, and you can't see anything.
Those altitude changes change the surface of the roadway very quickly.
Now, one of the other things, just, you know, some of the certified partners, now with New York State, you can't have court clerks or judges or anything do any type of testimonials. That's what I understand.
Yeah.
But these are testimonials from other people,
Other states. I
in
wonder
other
why they were all
states.
out of state, but you're right. the New
Well, yeah,
York-
New York State won't allow it.
New York is very strict.
Yeah.
And I can't blame them to a certain extent, so, you know, it's a little bit different system, but initially it works the same exact way. You know, it's just, so I will check also on the profit sharing, or whatever you want to call
It'd
it,
be a nice private-public partnership.
and just see what they have to say with that. Now, anything else I need to follow up on?
I think we're okay. We'll wait to get some feedback and,
We'll check around,
you
we'll
know,
talk to everybody.
one of us, I know Paul made an initial contact with you. Maybe we'll just let Paul get back and say, here's a new question. There are no questions. Let's get going. Well, thanks for your time.
Yes, like I said, feel free to give me a call, you've got my cell phone. And if there's anything else I can do for you, let me know.
Thank you, we do appreciate it.
I'll be in touch with the girls.
Yeah, see, a lot of times they do that before we do the city council meeting. Everybody does their homework, you try to push them to do the homework, and everybody's so busy.
Yeah,
They
there's
don't get to
a
it.
little different motivation after we've had a little presentation and chance to meet the people.
Well, I don't think you really can
You're
until
not supposed to be.
you've seen something, so you understand what you're supposed to be asking anyway.
Well, exactly.
I mean, you're asking blind questions.
It's a tough sell to sell something blind. And, that's why we put together a couple of these things, so they got, everything that you see in the system is in here.
Well, it'd be no different than, somebody calling me up and saying, hey, I have a car today, want to buy it? Yeah, sure. No, I don't think so.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Drive safe.
No problem, thanks.
I'll be down, find out.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Von Bargen.
All my dirty work done?
Did you want to come in at the end? No.
Certainly can.
Kevin, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
You guys still alive?
Is this your extension, Kevin?
No, but if you want to give it to me, it'd be good for Christmas lights. Anybody want a card?
Yes, I do, definitely. Thank you.
I'll grab one, I'm sure I've got a couple of places.
Make a little money.
Marcus. Okay, Mr. Von Bargen.
All right, there are multiple pieces of information that I have provided you, or at least Deborah, and I'm not sure what came across to you or in what form it came to you. So let me explain what we're doing. This is for the zoning amendments adoption. There are multiple parts that have been accomplished. So I just want to summarize what those are. They would be the actual zoning ordinance itself, this document right here. And then there are the various tables. There's a use table, there's an area table, and there's a table associated with the former Clinton County Airport that's kind of a separate district to itself with its own use and area regulations. There is a resolution there are two resolutions. I've only given you right now one resolution. The one resolution that I provided is the draft for the actual adoption of the amendments. The other resolution is the seeker resolution, which we're working on right now. We did provide to you, though, the documentation that goes with the seeker resolution, which is the environmental assessment form, the Part A and the long form, Part 1, and the long form, Part 2. So we have provided those to you. And CJ is working with CJ to get this in front of you for action, has suggested strongly that we separate the seeker resolution action, one meeting, and then the following meeting do the zoning amendment action. So the seeker ordinance is going to be just a standard kind of accepting the findings of a negative declaration, that there's no need to go any further because there's not significant impact. Most of the mitigations for the seeker process will come about through the processing itself of individual projects or actions themselves. They require area variances, they go through a seeker process with the Zoning Board of Appeals, site plan, special permit, PDDs, go through seeker actions for them individually as they come up before the planning.
The actual zoning, say ordinance or local law, that's always in negative deck. The only time, is that true?
No, I suspect that you could have a finding by some community might find that,
But that'd be unusual, wouldn't it?
I think that would be unusual.
What, the actual project is what stimulates
Yeah.
the impact.
Yes, I would say that.
Okay.
It's safe to say that. Some communities do what they refer to as a generic environmental impact statement. They put a lot of effort and energy and cost into evaluating, perhaps maybe a little more closely, in a broad sense, what actions might unfold and then what the implications or consequences of those actions are. And there's some value to doing that, to utilize that draft generic environmental impact statement that would then perhaps make it development easier as it came down the road before the planning board or the zoning board of appeals in rendering their decisions.
You mean they would look at that analysis?
Yeah, and see if it fit.
They do that in law sometimes, they have what they call a commentary on why they passed a law, like say in the assembly, at the state level, and then if a judge is trying to understand, he'll go to the commentary, it's probably the same thing.
Yeah, conceptually it would be that. So, after a long process, the ordinance, or the resolution for the adoption of the ordinance itself spells out those steps that have taken place and the actions that led up to the point where we are now with this draft. Now, I've asked Tom to assist me, just make sure, every time that you put these things in a Word document and you try to manipulate the format, things get thrown around. And I also want to make sure that mostly what we've done, what we've talked about in the course of my meeting with you and Stephen meeting with you, was to remove items from this ordinance rather than to add additional information. The way that this process will work then is that next Monday night, we will have for you the ordinance, or the resolution for the seeker action for next Monday night for negative declaration findings. And then you have your end of the year meeting on the 27th. We would ask that at that meeting then, the acting of adopting the ordinance would occur at that time. Once you then take that final action by resolution, you will direct the town clerk to, I forget exactly how it said, to publish in the newspaper the summary of the changes, which is this document right here. It's a fairly lengthy change document, so there were about 10 pages. It will include, you either, that's what you gotta do. I mean, it'll probably come close to a full-page ad, $1,000.
I hope we can do it in a full page.
That's a good question. I'm kind of looking at this thing thinking, the only thing is that the use table, the use regulations table, how they're gonna do that.
You have to publish it?
You have to publish it.
The entirety of the changes.
Well, the summary of the change.
But the summary, you wouldn't need the table for the summary, would you?
Well, let me talk it over with CJ.
Okay.
You know,
I think
CJ
you
says it-
can do it, I think you just do a quick summary without including it all.
I'm wondering also, without looking at that right now, if the, topics, subtopics versus line by line would note that the full document is available for review.
Oh, no.
Every line of the changes. That's just a
Summary of the
miserably
changes.
expensive.
Summary of the changes. If you wanna.
Yeah, but my summaries are never as brief as anybody else's, for example. And the other person's could be an equally valued summary without all the embellishments. You know what I'm saying and not saying, but we'll do it right.
It's a cost of doing business.
Wow.
On that point, by the time the press Republican puts it in the paper, it'll be in January, right? And it's 10 days from the date that it appears in the.
This will be
That's
all
after.
ready to go on the 28th, so however
What's that?
fast.
10 or 5?
What's that?
10.
How many dates from publication?
10.
10 days from publication.
Okay, so, well, let me tell you where you could have an issue. If we're not gonna deal with the seeker until the 17th of December, okay? Would we be able to publish prior to that meeting?
Publish after, don't you?
Okay, so you publish after the 17th, you got a meeting on the 27th?
No, after the 27th, after the adoption, right?
No,
After you, the board, the town board, adopt the resolution accepting the amendment,
okay,
subsequent to that, then you publish it. So there's, I mean, you take your action first, and then whatever, however soon we can get it into, have it published, it'll be published. There's,
That's after the meeting on the 27th, not
10
after the
days
seeker.
following the publishing in the newspaper, it takes effect. So there, you have no constraint.
Yeah.
You have no time requirement for you to,
It's just when it takes effect, it won't take effect until the end of January probably.
no, it would take effect 10
10
days
days
after.
after.
So if it's published on January 1st or January 2nd, it would be, 10 days following that.
Wow.
It actually, I think it takes 3 days typically to get it into the hands of the legals for the Press Republican for it to be published. I think 3 to 5, let's just say 3 to 5. So it's going to be published in the newspaper in early January, and then it will take effect 10 days subsequent to the publishing in the newspaper.
It's been a long journey, hasn't it, so? Many, many months.
Well, and I will admit that the last few months has been, an administrative thing of getting discussions back and forth and getting everything in a format, and still doing that. These things are
Staff
just-
changes
they're
and lots of
tedious.
things.
They're just really tedious.
We're there.
well, we had significant changes that had to be made.
The maps,
And we've got some other ones that some people out there want to have made that aren't gonna get made.
Yeah,
All the
just as an aside, I'm actually meeting with Mr. LaBarge this week, and I will be discussing with him what the steps are in the ordinance for a zoning amendment. And we'll talk through that, and I think in this particular case, it'll be presented to you, the board, as a request by a landowner, and then you will refer that to the planning board. Prior to getting this into your hands, I want to make sure that there's a common understanding and this discussion about the points that we've discussed in the past, and thinking ahead to that particular change that would come as a consequence of that. But, I will support helping facilitate and administer that for both the planning
Okay,
board.
like you read any other request.
Yeah.
It'll just be benched against the new ordinance, that's all.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Tom, just a second. The ordinance doesn't change the portion pertaining to amendments, that's still the same.
yeah, the copy that you have there, that's what you put on, in our mail, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I saw that in the, that there were some
But it was just,
formatting
yeah,
issues.
it was just the changes that you put in, right?
Yeah, well, mostly they were extractions. There was the discussion that we had here with Stephen, you had on the signage and recreation vehicles, that's been incorporated into
Mhm.
here.
Good.
So that's the process, that's what we're down to here now. I certainly am happy to get to this point. I will be happier shortly, but, then there will be something else. And I don't know, I was supposed to try to make it down to the county courthouse tonight for the Plattsburgh International Airport Master Plan meeting, but I didn't I'm not gonna make it down there, but that's interesting. I should talk with you about that tomorrow.
Mhm.
Large comprehensive plan for the county airport. And, that's taken 2 years, and they popped it on in our laps in the end of November, just like that.
Just, and any particular ones, on page 119 where it says penalties, can these be changed by the town? I mean, this is in the zone.
Not now, but can the penalties be changed? You don't, we're not offering to change them right now, we're trying to get this adopted. You
No,
wanna make a change
but
to
as
this?
I understand it, the way we were supposed to be doing this is that those are gonna be done by the board separately, fees and,
Fees, but not penalties.
okay, well then, this particular thing, these are set for however long this plan is in.
So you amend them. Yeah.
If we want to change the penalties, we would amend the plan.
Yeah, as the legislative board, you are always an entity that can change this ordinance.
Refresh my memory, when was the last plan completed? The previous ordinance that we, I didn't mean plan, I was thinking master plan, previous
Well,
ordinance was
um,
updated in,
There was a major, similar, following the comprehensive plan, there was a major rewrite of the zoning ordinance in December of 2000, I believe is when it became effective, December of 2000. And then we did, sometime around 2004, we did a tweaking of, just as an outcome of working with the zoning ordinance and finding some things that were easy to change. The town appointed a committee. The committee worked for a number of months looking at various recommendations from staff that were based on working aspects of the ordinance. So I think that was 2004. And then I believe in 2007, the Development Corporation came to you regarding the property up here on the end of Banker Road, next to Nova Bus. That was rezoned from whatever zone it was, neighborhood commercial to industrial. And then a year ago, this past summer, as the comprehensive plan was being worked on, the board acted on adopting the zoning change for the Old County Airport so that the county would have that in place as they continued with their process with the FAA.
I think what that speaks to is that the document will be in place for a number of years, but it's a living document and may be subject to amendment over that period of time as needed. So it's not rigid and constraining until you go through a full review.
There are 4 mechanisms to make an amendment. And so when you think there's the town board, there's the planning board, there is the public itself. And so when JCEO was moving forward, the town had a request from a large number of people in the R2 district to make modification to the zoning ordinance. And that was an interesting outcome, because as we worked through that, the planning board, the town board referred that action to the planning board for a report. And, well, one of the things we found that was pretty strange or interesting was that many of the people who were signing the petition to, cause effect to a change weren't even in the district involved with the change being made. And it was the planning board's decision or recommendation to the town board not to make a change to it. So you've got this whole host of different, entitlements, I guess, to making changes to the ordinance. So from that standpoint, I think it works pretty good.
Yeah. And we've invoked those over the years.
So the town board, planning board, petition of owners, or a committee, which is how, this was done, a committee appointed by the town board. So those are the 4 mechanisms to make change to this document.
Anyone have any other particular questions before we forge forward? Just in review, we'll do the seeker on the 17th and the final adoption on the 27th.
On the page 124 on the repealer, those aren't all going to be repealed, correct?
Yeah, the solid waste is the one gets dropped out of there.
Okay, so the pages on these will be changed for those particular ones, or?
I don't think the pagination will change, is that right? Is that a word, pagination? No.
It is tonight. It is tonight.
Pagination.
Pagination.
So when someone reads the zoning, they'll read that these laws were repealed.
Yes.
Then they will have to go to all those other papers to go through all the changes in this zone. All the ones that you've got there, that you're putting in the paper, the newspaper.
Yeah, you need to make sure that the local laws as they were are that in here. Are you doing that for me? You did say you were helping me, right? You were gonna come in.
All I said was I'm reading it through to make sure that,
You-
Tom's
Tom's
changed a lot of
volunteered
things
to come
here.
in and have a meeting
But
next week.
The
Or
map
next
too,
week. We can do it next week.
is the map, is the final map?
Yeah.
So if there's mistakes on here, I can bring those up to you?
If you find a mistake, please bring it to my attention.
Okay. I haven't found it yet.
That's a warning.
Well,
I said yeah.
I go over, there's the amendment itself, and then there's the map, and there's the three tables. So that's a fair amount of material. There's 2 resolutions, and then there's the secret documentation that goes along with it. So there's a lot of material.
Okay, so if there's any minor detail things, they can be done up until the 27th.
You can talk with me. But you may not get very far, but you can talk with me.
Okay, if there are no other questions, I'm going to thank Phil for his patience through end court. Really didn't think it was going to go to that length of time. I
Actually,
appreciate
I
it.
used the time to do part of the
Go
bill.
back through it. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 3 on the agenda is a report as much as anything. I think you all got Phil's report on the LDC as well as his summary. You should have a resolution concerning salary adjustment that really this is all beginning to focus on, as well as a letter from 2006, one of the first letters I wrote with a little concern of $710,800 that I was going to get nervous the town was going to be held accountable for 4 CDBG grants. Kind of old news, I think you're all aware of that. It sat for quite some time. Phil's quite left brain, quite linear in his thinking, and has mapped the process well, and I'm glad he did because we need historical record. The second page of his report, when you get down to the issue, is what we'll be dealing with, and the thing at this point, I guess, I've talked with him a little bit, and I'm comfortable with the analysis of what would be owed back to the town based on the resolution that we passed in '08 to add to his duties to primarily get this LDC resolved, established, compliant, and make sure we didn't have to pay back the $700,000, and that seems to have been done. He feels, I agree, the cutoff date for that would have been that point in 2011 when the LDC is totally autonomous. They are making their own appointments, they have their own board, they do their own thing. The ABO and ABO mandates that evolved at about the same time we're trying to figure out what an LDC is. That was decisions made that were handed to us to sort of follow up and mop up. They're extremely strict about municipalities, municipal government, and LDCs. The little bit of reading I've done, I'm kind of glad they are strict, and I certainly understand why, because there's been some appropriation of LDC funds, not necessarily to where I think they might have been best spent. So the thing we're trying to do, as I said, is clean this up. I don't know if Pat has reviewed it yet, but what I'm looking for tonight, you've had the information, is a level of support that the 20% time, the total remuneration of $7,650 would appear to be appropriate. Phil goes beyond that a bit with the other stuff he's done. His position evolved from those first few duties and jobs of creating some of the documentation that we didn't have prior and getting files in place. I don't know if you all recall, we had to bring a consultant in because as we're discovering this, we discovered they were coming in to review those books, and there was absolutely nothing structured, absolutely nothing organized. We do it locally now. And as he pointed out, the home grant, the Schluter, Haley micro grants and so on, those funds are doing it, as well as the J-Crack cap that he writes himself. But that's almost, that's kind of a nice historical update, and I really wish we had formally kept you tuned in to what was going on with Phil, maybe more consistently. But as I said, the key is, the next step is, I believe the LDC would like a letter from me as the supervisor to them. I mean, they can't just write checks, rightfully so, indicating our acceptance of an agreement with the amount noted as being appropriate to be responding to the resolution to bring those funds back into the general fund.
And you're gonna check with Pat on that
Yeah, well,
calculation?
yeah, and
I
that's
mean,
one
it seems right, I mean, I don't think Bill makes a mistake, but
no. Well,
It'd be good to pass
one
it
big
on.
thing with Pat is he has brought to the position a lot of experience from other municipalities to know whether this would appear to be a reasonable number and a reasonable amount and a reasonable way to resolve this and move forward. I guess the good news is we're managing these grants, the files are tight. These micro grants, I think we've been through 3 or 4 new people since we were awarded the grant that have come on and said, well, I'm here now, here's how we're gonna do it. And I stopped up to see Heather O'Neill today. She is one of the entrepreneurs looking to expand the business. We have some with the micro that are starting new businesses, some expanding. They create jobs. And she was like, getting ready to go. She's actually quite excited about future things she'd like to do. She was talking today about a car wash that she thought the community would benefit from having, and had done a little research, which is good for her. But she was like, gosh, it seems every time, though, I think I'm done, I get a call from Phil, I got some more paperwork, I got some more forms, I want to look at my 1040s, and I'll tell you, otherwise I don't know how we do it. And that may be why the LDC in the beginning never got off the ground the way it should. These things take time. So anyway, that's the full Monty. And I don't know if you want to respond now, then I can get working on the letter. If you want to let me know what you think later, I'm assuming you read this already. The issue at hand is our agreement that the percentages and the amount that the LDC should reimburse is appropriate, and I will write a letter requesting it. I don't know how you come up with anything else myself, but it seems reasonable. I seem to work with the 3 of you,
sounds good.
getting some bobs and nods, and I will begin to draft a letter. Just like I said, I just want to sort of like fill in the ordinance. You get some of these things you just want to put them to bed. You've got the minutes. Before, number 4, just a reminder, December 24's meeting is rescheduled to December 27th. That'll be the organizational meeting. Keep that in mind. Number 5 is just a bit of an information. If you have any thoughts, ideas, let me know. One of the things...
December 27th is the end of the year meeting, not your organization, right?
It's our end of the year meeting.
Right.
The organizational is really the first meeting. To me, we're organizing for the one.
And we're gonna move, that's gonna be the 2nd of January.
No, I thought,
Thought I saw it that way.
Mine is correct.
no, it's not the second.
Yes, he is correct,
Yeah.
2nd of January.
Oh, is it? That was Wednesday, hasn't it?
The first one in,
January.
It was Wednesday, no?
Right, because New Year's Day is.
So is that?
Tuesday, it's Tuesday, I'm sorry, it's Wednesday,
It is
2nd of Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah, New Year's Day is the first.
New Year's Day is Tuesday, so it is...
The first
Wednesday.
day of business in 2013.
I don't have it down for Wednesday, and
Yeah,
Well, that's what's in the papers.
no, that's correct. I just don't have it in my calendar, which means I need to do that.
And the next question would be, will the meeting on the 2nd, certain plant, the meeting that would have potentially normally been on the 7th. In other words, will we meet on the 2nd of January and then meet on the 21st of January?
The 2nd and the Monday, the 7th, I've got a meeting down.
Well, if you did it on the first, if you did it by putting it in there recurring.
Yeah,
on
seventh
the
would be the
and
first
third.
Monday, really.
But normally, if you're gonna have a meeting on the 2nd of January, you wouldn't have a meeting on the 7th.
But it's pretty close proximity from one
Right.
to the other is what you're saying. Let's,
Have a workshop on the 10th.
yeah,
Well, are you gonna be working, you know, all over that weekend, New Year's Day, to get the stuff ready for us?
yeah.
Well, if you are, then that's fine, you know, otherwise, you know, it's be the 7th.
Yeah, why can't we have the organizational meeting the 7th and just meet on the 1st?
I don't know the answer to that question. If that's something you want me to pursue, I will find out. Other than saying, because that's what we've always done, I don't know if that's an option and a
Right.
choice. But Paul's, and boy, that's something Debbie and I have talked about a
Yeah.
couple of times. We get these meetings we do on Wednesday or Thursday, and then we're trying to get an agenda ready for the Monday. It takes a day or two after we have one to follow up and mop up. It's very difficult.
There
There
used
used
to
the
be,
meeting's still Tuesday
Yeah.
next year.
yeah, there used to be something that I think you almost had to sign some book or do some legal mumbo jumbo, but maybe that's gone by the boards.
That's
You had-
been-
you had-
that's within 30 days, but nobody knew it was taking office January 1st.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe anyway.
Well, I can find,
I agree with what Jim's saying. We used to have
There used to be-
there was some specter held over us if we didn't have a meeting. It had to be the first business day
Yeah.
of the new year.
yeah, well, if you've
Or-
had a majority of your elected officials
Yeah,
leave
well-
office on the 31st and you
Yeah,
didn't have a
swear
meeting
them
on the
in.
7th, you may not have anybody in authority to pay the rent.
Yeah, there was that.
If you want to find out about the 7th versus having it also on the 2nd, I'll just call the Association of Towns.
And if you
Yeah, I won't
wanna have it on the
get
2nd, that's okay, but I don't think we should need one on Monday, too.
Okay, let me just find out, and
Unless you wanna change the meeting to Tuesday, in which case, you know, we could go on Tuesday.
Easy question.
the organization will have it. I'll make a call and we'll find out if there's any legal reason that we can't. We don't have any change in our board makeup, so there's no holes. We may be able to do that in the off year.
Right.
All right. The other item 5, Marty got involved pretty deeply with one situation, and we've had a handful over the last few years. Retirees and insurance payments for those that remain on our policy. As the retirees, being retired, begin to want to travel, or they become a snowbird, if they did electronic fund transfer and the money was there, it wouldn't be a big deal. But we've had a variety of kinds of relationships with getting payments mailed, money orders, they come in with cash every month, God bless them. They leave pre-dated and signed checks, but we've also had situations where I forgot.
You get a 92-year-old retiree.
And we're getting 90-year-old retirees.
I pay them every month, they weren't paid.
We need something, and I've talked a fair amount with Pat to begin to evolve. We simply need a policy, and this is the way it is. There are 2 or 3 acceptable ways this will happen, and if you don't do that, you miss it. We're going to send you a COBRA form. We can't be subsidizing their payments.
There's a part of people who, they want to be able to deal with people on an individual basis, recognizing the foibles of life. But the reality is, we have to have a policy, and then people are in the position to enforce the policy, as opposed to, well, what did you do for Jim 8 years ago?
Yeah.
It's no, this is what the policy is, this is the date of the policy, I can give you a copy of the policy. This is where, this is what I have to do, my hands are tied, this is what we do.
And then maybe we could give a call to the 92-year-olds beforehand or something.
Well, at the point of
You
retirement,
cannot,
they will
let me
start.
make a point on that, okay? That's a perfect example of what you cannot do.
Right.
Once you make that telephone call, you have now established a new policy, whether you intended to or not.
That was one of the things that Pat kind of chirped up as we were saying, well, sometimes I this and we've, and he's like, oh my God, you can't do that. For the same reason. Otherwise, you're discriminating against somebody you didn't give that as an option. The point, we need a policy. And it's sort of working and it sort of isn't in some cases. There are options. One of the things I mentioned to Pat, and unless somebody, we come up with something else, I'll put it in there. Because we don't want some poor 90-year-old that, had a stroke and was disconnected from the world for a month or two to get back into sync and find out their insurance dropped because they didn't make payment. But we can't make payments for them. But it's sort of like the utilities. We went through this a few years ago with seniors being found frozen to death in their homes. The utilities shut the power off and so on and so forth.
Well, just have a,
They can
we
give
we
us
can have
a
a policy where we
a
just have
next of
somebody
kin
that
to
is
contact.
notified and placed.
Notification,
In
yeah.
addition to the person.
If payment isn't made within 5 days, your loved one will be without. So anyway, brainstorm the idea. I think you get the sense. If you have any thoughts, let me know. I will begin to pound something out. I'll discuss this with all the people I need to. We'll get a draft, but we need a policy. And I'm hoping.
The only thing I think, this must come up in other towns. It must be, we're not the first
It's
one
sort
ever
of-
to face this problem.
I'll
Yeah.
guarantee you we'll be the first one in Clinton County with a policy.
Well, that I don't doubt, but we're not the first in the Western world.
Oh, hell no.
But it's like when you talk with people like
We're
Kevin.
working on it.
The municipalities are so different. Every now and then, I'll take that same question, and again, an asset of a Pat is he's had his fingers in the books of many
Yeah.
municipalities. What do they do? And, somebody's gotta be doing this better than us, and kind of chuckle and say, they're not even doing it, let alone better than me. The comptroller's audits have really surfaced a lot of things. I don't know if you all look at those, I look at them. And there are times when you wonder, oh my God, we didn't have a employee handbook. We didn't have a computer use policy. We didn't have a cell phone use policy. We didn't have a violence in the workplace policy. You're dead in the water without those things. But they take time to get them legal. It takes money. You have to hire consultants. So yeah, there are a lot of things we do, nobody else does, but it should be. Maybe that's why our budget for.
Well, I don't think there's any question that the Controller's Office and the Department of State, they administer at a different standard depending upon whether you're a Class 1 town or not.
Sure, absolutely. That's part of it as well. So we'll put that together. That's a goal, just so you understand where it's coming from. If you have any questions, see me. We need a planning board alternate. And duly noted, at this point, we'll do that. We seem to have done pretty well finding highly qualified, interested people. Minutes are there. Please take a look at them, as you always do.
The planning board alternate resolution, are we on the resolution yet?
I just turned to that. I'm down to the first one, which is Security Services for Justice Court. And these are, I don't think they're, unless somebody wants to talk about them, I don't think they're worthy of any great discussion for the most part. Just, look them over, they're coming. Planning board alternate, Tom, did you have any comments on that, what that's about?
Yes,
So-
that's where you have Mr. Lattenville's listed as getting the copy when you're appointing somebody else. The last resolve.
You got it. That font is a different size. I suspect copy and paste didn't work well. We will correct also a term that's going to expire in the year, I don't know what that year is, 11/19.
Well, it's a long ways away. This person's gonna live a long time. We won't have to replace it. It's gonna be great.
7-year term.
If he lives 110 years, so what? That's good. Beyond what he already
It's
is.
in for the long haul.
These are drafts. In fact, as I
Okay.
flip them, I keep finding some
And
things.
then,
Can we go back,
reappointment,
can we go back for a minute to the
Yep.
planning board alternate appointment? I thought Jeff Wagner was being moved up to a full
Yeah.
member of the planning
That's a
board,
good point.
not being
No,
reappointed.
yeah, that whole line is off. He will become a regular member,
Yeah, just
which
scratch
is why
the
we need
alternate.
an alternate.
Planning board appointment is.
Oh,
the title.
these haven't been proved.
Right, but the title needs to be planning board appointment.
Yep.
not Alternate.
Yep,
The town of Plattsburgh, that's okay, at the top, doesn't it?
Yeah,
well, you have to change it in the resolve too, of course.
the whole thing will be redone.
Okay, so that was number one. Then number two is the appointment of the other person to,
Be an
zoning board
alternate?
of appeals should be her instead of his, on the second line of the whereas.
I haven't proofed these, so.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to go over them.
I do,
won't.
that's fine, I'm just sharing. I haven't read them. Leave it at that. And we have the reappointment of Gerard to the Board of Ethics.
maybe Martin, was that him also?
And
Can we appoint him to anything else since he's not here?
yeah, he brought the Margot one in, that was the one I passed
Yeah.
out. Those, when we put this together, those would have to be obviously
He gets appointed,
connected.
he gets appointed for one-year terms. Other people
Right.
are being appointed for 5-year terms.
Yep, they're the board members. Our town board member, we said, would be an annual. Gerard, well, so I just grabbed the one I gave you a little bit ago and pulled Margot's up, just so we make sure and put them in there. You've got the usual reports. I thought there was one. I don't know if you're aware, Mr. Collins is home now. I wouldn't necessarily say he's doing a lot better, but he's home. He is on oxygen at home. I did have some conversations with Danielle today about, her position and time. So we clarified to her that, her position began as a 20-hour, and that's the way it's going to begin 2013 as well. We put extra time into that for a number of reasons, but that's the way it's budgeted, and that's the way we need to try and run it. But he's home. A couple of us stopped in to see him last Friday at the hospital. And it was good to see him sitting up, but I've certainly seen him looking a lot better. He's a man who's got to get better before he comes back to work. The organizational meeting calendar, Deborah threw in here as well. It's something to really take a look at. I don't know if
I didn't get one, but anyway.
It's on the second page of that
mine was clipped
resolution.
to the resolution. It's just a 2013 calendar anyway.
Right.
The big thing that she made a note is she's heard me grumble enough about Veterans Day, and it's exactly what we were talking about earlier. When we have our meeting on, when we get that meeting on a Thursday and we gotta run around and have another one the following Monday, it's just a killer. So we see that as a
And,
closed
you know,
day.
I've seen us do it in February, where we don't have the meeting on the third Monday because of the Association of Towns meeting. I've never understood if we're gonna have a meeting on the 21st. Okay? We could either have the meeting on the 21st or we have a meeting on the 25th.
And-
Same
yeah.
issue.
It is, and I agree with that. It's extremely difficult to prepare a meaningful agenda when you just had a meeting 3 days before and you're still processing that stuff.
It's equally
Really is.
difficult to prepare a meaningful agenda when, people have been out of town. for
Yep, haven't been able to
4
prep.
weeks.
So, I mean, that's the kind of suggestions we're looking for, Marty, that, we need to make some changes. Doing it again because that's the way we've always done it, you all know the definition of insanity.
Yeah, that's why I was suggesting maybe we want to meet on Tuesdays next year.
There are reasons to meet on Tuesdays, because if you've got the many Mondays we have that are holidays, people sometimes are traveling, they're seeing family, and you gotta come back for your Monday meeting. It'd be a lot nicer to have it on Tuesday. I don't have a problem with that either. We have the ability to schedule the meeting anytime we want. What is it, most towns, and again, it's not the Class A towns, but most of them, I think, have one meeting a month.
You just want to remember, if you move it to Tuesday, your zoning board of appeals and your planning board.
Oh
you
yeah,
just write
series
all
of
of their
dominoes,
calendars.
I know.
That's the reason we haven't done that.
But
It's
not always user-friendly.
There is some, I think there's some positives to meeting on a Tuesday rather than a Monday. Our problem is that, in many cases, we could start our meetings later. It would mean, for example, the planning board or the zoning board would have a certain finite amount of time for their meeting.
Yeah, and that's tough. I don't know if that's a good idea to do to them.
Mm-hmm.
But look at it. I mean, there's some good suggestions being thrown around. Take a look and let us know. We need to draft this soon. Deborah has been, she's like the elves in the North Pole. While we're doing what we're doing day to day, she's thinking to that organizational meeting, and it's a small book of resolutions and decisions for the year. That's all I have.
Yeah, I won't be at the meeting
Marie, I
in
wanted to ask you
December,
a
right?
question about this. This is,
Last week of December.
No, I don't have a note of that. Tom,
Well,
you're
you do
out.
now.
what is the cornerstone
27th of December.
telephone company? This one catching me by surprise.
Oh, we had a meeting with them this week. That's the company we've been using for the phones at the Park Rec buildings. And we have a couple of our alarm systems that use Cornerstone as well. They outbid Verizon. We met again with them recently. They would like to expand their influence with us, as they're an expanding company. They're not big into providing regular desk phone service, but they're quite involved with the technology and using phone lines to transmit data, et cetera, et cetera. They like the building's emergency, and we saved a small chunk of change with them. We've had a number of meetings. Pat joined me for the last one because they brought in a bigger proposal. We've been chasing around that to decide where to go for a couple of months. Their agreement is about to end for the phones we have. Followed up with Mel, she's had no complaints. Water Sewers had no complaints, so I asked them to put together an extension of what we've done, with the idea we'll continue to take a look at what else they might do. Tech stuff is, and I look to you. You're probably more tech savvy with all the options than any of us here. The possibilities are amazing, and even to the new copiers that we have, what people are now able to do. I will control that copier from my computer before I ever push print. If I want it stapled, if I want it to be 3-hole punch, collated, whatever. It'll go into a box. I can print all day and then go in with my pen and put out what I want. If it's confidential, I can wait until I'm there to receive it. We program the one-color printer to automatically print black and white. Color is expensive. You're going to have to overtly demand a color print, but we're also going to be tracking it. And with the voiceover on our phones, and I mean, and more companies now don't need as much brick and mortar to provide a huge number of services. So Cornerstone began to encroach in some of that market, and it was just getting difficult to sort.
Before we sign that agreement, we really ought to reach out to Verizon and AT&T, who we both have cell service with. You can wind up with like $9.99 a month for remote wireless phone systems, that $10 a month, and, I mean, you use it so little, there'd be no charge, it's unlimited calling and.
I don't think that was done for this extension, but he's reviewed current rates and
Who's he?
Mr. Cornerstone, and
That might really-
I'm saying before we sign his
Yeah.
agreement, we should really look at, do we wanna switch horses and go to, you know, wireless capability in those buildings? It's a matter of, the equipment is basically built into your contract, and it's $10 a month as opposed to a phone bill. I mean, in almost every case, it's cheaper,
how do we have a wall phone that would be wireless?
because you put a wireless receiver in the building, and then you switch to what's basically a wire, I have it in my house.
Using a router?
We have it.
Yeah, I have wireless, I have my same home phone number I've always had through through AT&T Wireless, the cell phone service.
I don't
You attach
charter. I
a
have
chain
charter.
to it so it doesn't disappear.
Yeah, Charter does that.
They bring a line,
You
but I
attach
have
a chain
a,
to it so it doesn't disappear.
Nah, you put it above the
I have a
ceiling.
router so that I can.
I put it in places where it's not
Yeah.
very
Four
notorious.
different rooms.
Easy to do.
We'll take a look at that.
But it's
And
$10 a month as
that
opposed to,
Mhm.
I mean, in all those cases, you know, in our water buildings and that, I mean, if we're not switching to voice over IP, we're way behind the 8 ball.
Okay, that's why we draft these out. We'll look at some of those options. Anyone have anything else? Drive safe.
You don't need a motion.
No, work session.
You just tell us when it's over.
I'll tell you, it's over and I write the time.